Buying cheap shit is keeping you poor. It's a harsh truth that has not been spoken about enough, and I want to change that today and potentially help you break the cycle. How's it going, guys? I'm Treestain, and if you're new here and don't know what I'm all about, over the past few months, I've been using this channel to share my journey in using my phone less, going more analog, and changing my habits when it comes to what I consume online. One of the side effects of doing this has also been changing my habits as a consumer and the economy. With that said, in this video, I want to cover a couple different topics surrounding consumerism, sustainability, and how bad it really has gotten, as well as give you some tips on how to get away from hyperconsumerism, some of the rules and phrases that I live by and consider pretty much every time I'm purchasing something, as well as giving you some tips on how to find good deals on high quality items. To get started, I do feel the need to bring up some facts of the matter here, as this is a very sensitive subject. I am very much aware that there are many different factors that play into poverty and financial struggles. Between the stagnant wages, insane inflation, and debt, just to name a few issues, there are so many other factors that can affect your financial situation. However, there is a commonality in those factors, and it's generally how you have no control over them. So I decided I was going to take control of the one thing that I can, and that's how and where I spend my money. There are a couple of old sayings that I've been living by recently. The first saying that comes to mind is the classic, "You get what you pay for." Now, you may not realize this, but this single saying rings more true today than it ever has. The reason I say that is because stores or websites like Walmart or Amazon or Target all have a single goal. Their goal is to sell you as much as they possibly can, like any other business. Unfortunately, this comes at a cost that has spanned over the past couple decades at this point and has slipped right under our noses. That cost that I'm speaking about is the high price of low quality goods. In today's world, it's easy to get caught up in the good deals and savings ads everywhere, when really you're just paying more over time for lower and lower quality goods. I'm sure you've heard the other term that I want to mention, they don't make them like they used to. Well, outside of regulations and rules changing, it's pretty true. Things are not made the same anymore. Everything is plastic, cheaply made, and produced in sweatshops. And it's all designed to be replaced in a couple of years. They genuinely don't make items to last anymore, because if they did, they'd lose money on the constantly returning customer base. Is that true though? Would they really be losing money? I think it's important to note that not every brand is like this. There are many brands and companies out there that provide high quality goods that are built to outlast even us, and these companies are still absurdly profitable. These companies are what I and many others have called heirloom brands. Heirloom brands are the epitome of the last saying that I live by, buy once, cry once. It's essentially the brands that you can purchase one time, and as long as the product is not absolutely abused, you can pass it down to your kids, and they can pass it on to theirs, and so on. There's also this subreddit called Buy It for Life that I highly recommend and can't recommend enough to check out in finding what brands these are and generally what to look for while you're out shopping. I won't lie to you, most of these items can be quite expensive up front, and that's where a lot of the problems come in. Once you've gotten into the cycle of needing to buy a product over and over and over because it keeps breaking, failing, that's unfortunately by design very difficult to get out of this cycle, especially in today's world with forced obsolescence. In case you don't know what forced obsolescence is, it's essentially another anti-consumer business practice where you make an item intentionally fail, degrade, or generally get worse over time, so the consumer has to inevitably buy another item or product that is also designed to do the exact same thing and eventually fail in the same way. This is where the main point of the video comes from. When I say cheap shit is keeping you poor, breaking the cycle is hard, but once you do and you start buying high quality items built to last instead of the junk that you see at Walmart and Amazon, you'll start really saving money over years at this point. Now, I had mentioned that these items are quite expensive before. When you compare them to the cheaper, low quality alternatives, it's easy to take it as face value and assume that these items just aren't worth it. When it comes to the cost, you really need to look at is the bigger picture and consider the cost per year. Whenever you consider most of the items are designed to fail, break, and fall apart over a short period of time, the cost per year of having to replace them starts getting exponentially more expensive the longer you do it, especially when you consider inflation and just the rising cost of everything. But if you were to buy the better quality item from the start from a brand that values quality and craftsmanship, after a few years, it's already paid for itself and then some. Even though you're paying more upfront, that doesn't always mean it has to cost full price either. I've learned through this journey of changing my consumer habits a lot of different ways to get great deals on stuff. And it's nothing new or groundbreaking. I've done it my whole life, but as I got older, I kind of got out of the habit. And you probably have done it yourself your whole life and just haven't paid attention enough to realize what you're actually doing. You just have to accept it, that you're no better than anyone else, and buy secondhand. That's it. That's the secret. However, there are tons of different ways to do this, and there may even be some that you don't think about or consider regularly. The primary way to do this is to go thrifting. Now, I will recommend to lower your expectations a bit when thrifting nowadays, because it has unfortunately become a breeding ground for resellers, and even some of the businesses have gotten in on this action. For example, at most Goodwills, it is very unlikely for you to find any sort of decent quality items in good shape anymore, because anything of value doesn't even hit the floor nowadays and just gets put directly onto their auction website. I will admit, I do not recommend shopping at Goodwill anymore if you have other options available. But I do recommend the website because you can still get fantastic deals on there, assuming you win the auctions at a low price, and watch out for the shipping costs because they're kind of high on that website. If you have a Habitat for Humanity or Salvation Army thrift store around you locally, I would recommend going there first. Another way is by going to flea markets and yard sales. This is by far how I've gotten some of the best deals on some of the stuff that I own now. Estate sales are also really great, but very similar to thrift stores, they've kind of been overrun by resellers here recently. So go in with some lower expectations there as well. Facebook Marketplace is another fantastic tool for secondhand items as long as you're comfortable lowballing people to get good deals, because basically everybody thinks that they have something worth more than it actually is. Another little tip, I know a lot of this video is about minimizing costs and potential risk, but if you're willing to put in a little work, there is also the world of broken and 4 parts items. One of my best finds I've ever picked up is an old PSP that was labeled broken in 4 parts. I got it, replaced the battery, and it still works like it's brand new. And all in all, I only paid about $40 for the battery and the console itself, and it's completely working just fine for a console that costs on average like $80 or more nowadays. Now, if you're in the market for an item that just absolutely has to be bought brand new, or it's a consumable item that you have to buy regularly, I highly recommend shopping locally. Shopping locally obviously supports small businesses, but it also helps them honestly stay in business. A lot of these small businesses in your local area really appreciate your business, even if they don't tell you that, as well as it keeps a healthy amount of competition for these big box stores. I will admit, most small businesses, you will be paying higher prices on average because they're not getting as good of a deal on some of these items and purchasing nearly as much product to sell in the first place. I do want to circle back on one thing that has been consistent throughout this entire video, and that's sustainability. It's a byproduct of shopping in this way simply because there's enough stuff out there already. I went to a few thrift stores and took pictures of just how much stuff is out there, yet we keep making more and more stuff. In a lot of cases, the supply is already out there. We've just gotten into the habit of throwing away everything and buying new instead of just being content with what we already have made out there to begin with. Before you throw away something, if it's not absolutely completely broken or there's really nothing wrong with it besides you just don't use it anymore, maybe consider reusing the item in an unconventional way. Otherwise, you'll just be adding to the trash mountains that we have in our world. I'm not joking. You've probably seen them without realizing it, but we literally put trash in a pile and then cover it in dirt and grass, and it looks like mountains. Here's a couple pictures just to show you what they actually look like. and maybe you'll keep an eye out for them. Before you buy junk from box stores, consider where this junk will end up in a few years. That's all I have for you guys today, and if you made it this far into the video, I want to thank you guys for watching. And if you haven't already, consider hitting that subscribe button for more videos like this in the future. And if you want to see more videos of topics like this, leave a like and a comment, and just let me know. Anyways, hope you guys have a great day. Take care. Adios.